Hello everyone, good morning and welcome to today's presentation. And the topic of today's presentation is AWS Bedrock's knowledge bases and agents. The expectations for today's presentation and the target audience are basically a beginner to intermediate level, those who are interested in generative AI and those who want to get started quickly and build some generative AI applications with minimal setup. So that is basically the idea of today's presentation. And it is not intended for very advanced, very LLM experts who can deep dive into all the finer details of how the LLMs works, what different kinds of LLMs are best for particular use case. That is not the intent. So it is just to give you an idea of what AWS services uh, are available to explore the generative AI landscape. Yeah. So with that expectation set, so for our today's presentation, this is the agenda that we are going to follow. We'll start with understanding what is Amazon Bedrock, the generative AI service by AWS. And within that, we'll particularly talk about two interesting services provided within Amazon Bedrock, that is knowledge bases and agents. And we'll also have a quick demo on these two services to understand how these works under the hood. And finally, we'll conclude the topic with question and answers. A quick intro about me, although we given a very nice introduction about me. My name is Bismillah Kani, and I work as a staff AI/ML scientist at VG Technologies, which is a unit of Baker Hughes, which was previously GE. And I'm also a proud AWS community builder under machine learning specialization. And I'm also have a couple of certifications. And these are my social handles if you want to stay in touch with me. So today's topic is about Amazon Bedrock. In the recent advent of generative AI, AWS introduced a new service called Amazon Bedrock. And this is an fully managed generative AI as a service and in a very serverless style. And it is considered to be within Amazon or within AWS, it's the one of the easiest way to build and scale generative AI applications with foundation models. And what are the main features of Amazon Bedrock? Um, it, I'm sorry. So what are the main features of Amazon Bedrock is that it gives a fully managed service and it gives access to most of the high performance foundation models, both from Amazon and as well as from third party service providers. So we will look into those, what are those foundation models available in Amazon Bedrock. But not only that, it also has a broader set of capabilities, like building a quick generative AI applications using services like knowledge bases and agents. It's very easy. And given that it is built on the AWS legacy and the reliability and the experience that AWS has, it features a robust security and privacy measures so that you could build an enterprise level generative AI applications without any worry about data privacy or any security related risk. Okay. And you just not only use the foundation models to build applications, but you can also fine tune any base models, any foundation base models. Take that and fine tune those base models onto your custom data, without writing a lot of codes. And as I mentioned, it provides a serverless setup. So it is very effortless. You can deploy generative AI applications within AWS, and it reduces the complexities of infrastructure management. So now we will quickly do a walkthrough of Amazon Bedrock. For that, I will just get into my web console. I hope you can see my AWS web console. So within AWS web console, if there is a service, this is a new service, is like less than 1 year old. And if you go into Amazon Bedrock, and this is the landing page, and if you click get started, this gives you an all the services that comes under Amazon Bedrock. And as I mentioned, it has foundation models both from Amazon and all different third-party model providers, like for example Claude or AI21 Labs, Cohere, uh, Llama 2 by Meta, and Mistral AI. So all the latest and greatest models are quickly integrated into Amazon Bedrocks for you to use it and try it out in your custom use cases. So the best way to start with Amazon Bedrock is the playground, or you could rather use the examples. There are 44 examples for you to get started with generative AIs. So they have different types of model providers. So if you're interested in a particular providers, either it be like a Anthropic or Mistral, you could go and try that. Or if you want to try it on a modality basis, you could try either a text-based example or an image-based example, or you could explore using use case-based examples. So let's try some interesting examples like problem solving. And so this uses a chain of thought prompt, and you can just open this examples in a playground and then quickly run this model in order to see how the model responds to your questions. So we give a simple mathematical problem, and then the Llama 2 solves this through a chain of prompt mode. Okay, that is one thing. Another thing is like you could quickly compare different models very easily, right? So for example, you could click Claude and then give some prompt and see which of the models is answering your questions in a more appropriate way. And by that way, you can select the most appropriate model and then build an application on top of it. So let's say, let's have some, or let's say, so I'm just trying it out, see what could be the answers given by these two models. Yeah, I think both of them gave neutral answers. They didn't say that a particular person or a party will win. They just say that what are the probabilities, and then given the situation, there might be a higher chance for a particular party or a person, right? So in that way, you could give some other interesting examples and try it out. Okay, but before even let's say if you're starting Amazon Bedrock, there are some prerequisites. You won't be getting access to all this models straight away, and you need to do a certain setup, and that is where we call here is model access. So once you are into AWS Bedrock, initially all this base models from different providers, the access will not be granted for you. Only after requesting for access and then the access being granted, you can start using it. So initially these will be all disabled. So for example, there are two new models that has been released by Anthropic like last week, that is Claude 3 Haiku and Claude Claude 3 Haiku, which I do not have access yet. And also I do not have access to the Mistral models. So if I want to use Claude 3 Haiku, then what I need to do is to manage models and then go and ask for access it and then save changes. So now this will go, it will be submitted as a ticket, and after they review my request, they will approve my access to this model. Okay, so this is in progress. It might take 24 hours to get approved. So that is something we need to know. Yeah. So now we got some overview about the Amazon Bedrock. We'll get started with the topic of today's session, which is knowledge bases and agents. Let me quickly bring back my presentation. Okay. So what is knowledge bases within Amazon Bedrock? So knowledge bases within Amazon Bedrock is, as mentioned here, is a fully managed and end-to-end retrieval augmentation generation workflow. We know that retrieval augmentation generation, or RAG for short, is a very powerful generative AI application which tries to customize your generative AI on your own custom data, and it also helps to reduce the hallucinations, and it tries to keeps the generative AI model or the bot to be within the context that you're trying to get the answers from. Okay, and I hope you know how the RAG works. So, but we also have a small flowchart that will give a little bit primer into what RAG is. So what are the features of knowledge bases within Amazon Bedrock? The knowledge bases in Bedrock automates the complete RAG workflows with citations. Okay, so you don't have to worry about setting up your vector database. You don't have to worry about ingesting your data into the vector database, and you don't have to worry about setting up your LLMs to complete these pipelines, and you don't have to worry about setting up an LLM model for extracting embeddings from this. All you need to do is um, follow through a workflow steps within knowledge bases just purely through console. There is no code involved at all, and you can just quickly build an RAG workflow in a couple of minutes without writing a single line of code. So it easily integrates with Amazon S3. All you need to is dump all your data, be it PDF, text, or any form of data into your Amazon S3. The knowledge bases quickly build, extracts all the embeddings, do the chunkings, and then ingest all this information into a vector database. And then it can convert the text into embeddings automatically. And it can also uh, uh, fetch you the relevant content from the vector database and then respond to you with the relevant responses with through API calls or through console also you can do it. And it also provides you a very transparent contextual data. So it shows you the traces, it shows you the citations, it shows you like where this information has been looked upon into your documents, and so that it provides a complete transparent RAG workflows. Now, how this works, right? So if you already know RAG, there are two things. One is the pre-processing data, which basically is that all your data from your S3, it is automatically splitted into chunks, okay? And all your documents are passed, be it in any format. And then we use a pre-selected embedding model that is selected by the user, convert those chunks into embeddings, and then store them into a vector database. So there are a couple of choices for you to choose your vector database. We'll see that when we are actually building in knowledge bases. And once you have your knowledge bases ready, during runtime executions, user gives an query, and the LLM model or the embedding model that pre-selected by the users converts the user query into an embeddings, and use an user embeddings and the already stored embeddings in your vector base to retrieve the most similar documents, and then using those similar document as context, augment those as an to the user query, and then send it to your LLM model, and then get the relevant response back and respond to the user. Yeah, so this is very typical RAG workflow, but you don't have to worry about, or you don't have to worry about writing any single line of code. All this could be done in a no code fashion. So we'll quickly get into a demo.
No,
For
but
that,
what about reasoning, chain of thought, prompt engineering? Uh, it will do all that automatically.
yeah, that we'll see it in agents.
Okay,
So
got it. Okay.
yeah, so knowledge base is a very basic RAG workflow.
And it will
But
take every kind of document, Office doc, Google doc, PDF, Excel, CSV, websites.
I think so, but I have not tried it myself.
Okay.
But we can look into the user guide or the documents from Amazon and see what kind of documents are supported. But
Is there
mostly
a fee? Is there a fee to use Bedrock?
there is no any free tier available. So it's basically like, even you cannot use your credits in Amazon Bedrock. So it
Oh,
will be
okay.
charged directly to your credit card.
Got it.
So for this presentation, although I have some AWS credits, I don't have the privilege of using those credits. The main reason is that you get access to the foundation models like from the third party, which are from, let's say, Anthropic, Claude, right? These are being provided to you through marketplace, right? Now Amazon pays money to Anthropic, right? Now they cannot pay Anthropic in AWS credits. They have to pay through actual dollars. So that is the reason they don't allow you to use AWS credits. So that is something you need to keep in mind. All right. So with that, we'll just see a quick demo. Um, if you're into Amazon Bedrock, and there is something called knowledge base, and what you need to do is create knowledge base, and you can give a knowledge base name. You can give a short description, which is optional, and then it creates an IAM service role with the right permissions, and then click next. So this is where you set up your data source. Okay. For a demo purpose, what I did is I created an S3 bucket, and I uploaded some PDF files. Okay, so there are some 9 PDF files are available. So what you need to do is browse your S3, locate your S3 where you have all your documents, and then choose those S3 bucket. And then for embedding model, you choose one of those 3 embedding models available. I'll just go with Titan from Amazon. And here is where you configure your vector database. One is a quick start, which basically provisions an Amazon OpenSearch serverless vector store. Or what you could do is you could create your own vector store offline. That could be either an OpenSearch, or it could be Amazon Aurora, or it could be an Pinecone, or it could be in Redis. and then you could configure that already created vector store. But for this demo purpose, I just asked them to create a new open source serverless vector store for me, and then say next, and then just review your configurations and then create your knowledge base. So in a minute or two, your RAG workflow is set up.
It's kind of sounds like our ImagineView, but that's okay. I mean, I understand big tech companies will commoditize features quickly.
Yes, yeah. It is similar to that only. So one difference would be is during your runtime execution, you have an option to select different LLMs.
Right.
Yeah.
But GPT is not available, correct?
In within knowledge bases, GPT is not available.
Mhm.
But if you are, you could use within SageMaker, which means you need to set up all these things all by yourself. It's fully self-managed, and it's more like an advanced users who knows how to develop those kind of things. And this is basically for someone who wants to quickly start, and someone who wants to quickly get experience with RAG. Maybe for some business users who do not have any developer experience. So now your knowledge base is ready, which is basically a RAG, and we already given the data source, which is a bunch of PDF files, and now you need to sync those data source into your RAG workflows. So now once you start click the button sync, what it will do is it will parse all those PDF documents, chunks them, and then convert those into embeddings, and then push or ingest them into your vector store. And once that is done, you are ready to ask questions to your RAG bot. Yeah. So now your RAG is synced. All your data sources are being ingested into your vector store, and now you can test your knowledge base. So in this, um, you could choose, let's say, either of the Anthropic Claude models. I'll just go with the latest one, 2.1, and then you could ask some questions. I have some questions ready with me. So I'll just copy paste here. So these PDF documents are actually from Amazon AWS blocks, and particularly from Marketplace. And these have been converted into PDF and loaded into S3. So now I'm just asking some relevant questions to that. I found this on the web. Sorry. So now it didn't answer. And we could try one more time. This is where I feel the GPT 3.5 or GPT 4 is really outperforming these models. So now it actually returns the relevant answers. So it says partners can use the AWS Partner CRM connector to enable AWS. Now I'll just bring back all those PDF documents, right? Now these are the PDF documents that I uploaded, and in the sixth PDF, it has the relevant content, right? Which It's about CRM connector. And the paragraph here is the AWS partners is able to centralize your sales operation through Salesforce and blah, 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 right? Now, what you could do, something which is a good feature of this is the citations. Now, you could build a RAG flow, but you could then respond back with relevant answers. But sometimes we want to know where this answer is actually coming from. So the citations, right? So then it look into, so it has an reference one, and it looked into this particular chunk of text, which basically is coming from this PDF, and then use those chunk of text to actually respond to the user. Yeah. So you could try with another question. Now, for example, this one. So the CPO stands for Channel Partner Private Offers, right? And it basically, I think it's coming from this PDF document. So it says Channel Partner Private Offers. Now, just to compare the hallucinations, if you actually go and try a Claude model, the same Claude model that we selected, and probably this one, and if you ask the same question to a non-drag, things, it would not be able to answer that, right? Because it doesn't have the context of what CPPO is. But in our knowledge base, we had the context, we ingested that context, so it was able to answer that. So that is a difference of using a knowledge base or a RAG workflow. And in through this demo, I just showed that I know you could just quickly build a RAG with just few clicks. Yeah. With that, I'll go
Interesting. Yeah, it is basically what we do in our KB miner in ImagineView.
okay.
But we have only GPT support so far, and I'm assuming our pricing will be lower. Yeah, it is expected. Whatever product features we launch, if they are basic in nature, big tech companies will commoditize them.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I think. Yeah, actually, I tried to upload all the same 9 documents into our ImagineView, and the response of the ImagineView is much better than this plot. Okay,
So
there could
that's
be.
so good to hear. Thank you
Yeah,
for
that
that.
is, yeah, that's the underlying GPT 3.5 or 4 model
We are
that is.
using 4, yeah, GPT 4 now.
Yeah. However,
There
once.
are, yeah,
Mhm.
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah,
Two
yeah,
questions
one.
from my side.
Okay.
Two questions from my side. Is this, I think Bedrock is pay per query, right?
Bedrocks.
Whatever the model Bedrock is, that's pay per query, right? It
Paper.
runs under, it's the builds on the runtime, right?
Okay.
I'm asking you this, right? So it builds on the runtime.
Sorry, can you reframe your questions? I'm not able to get it.
So Bedrock builds on a runtime. It's pay per query, right?
Pay per query. Okay. Yeah, pay per tokens actually. So I can show you the pricing. So it is basically like per 1,000 tokens, it will be like 10 cents or something like that. 15 cents, something like that.
Okay. Second question is like, what is the maximum, as any size limitation on S3 bucket on the data? Like, what is the highest size of database it can upload? Any limitations on that?
There is no any explicit mentioning about the limit, but it could affect your time to build your RAG, and it would also affect your cost. But I think technically there should not be any limit. as long as you have the enough budget.
Okay. And data types also, like initially Vivek also asked this question.
Yeah,
What?
data types, I do not have a full understanding, but I could check and come back on that.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, it should support PDF, text, probably some unstructured or semi-structured data like XML, YAML, or but I have not tried it myself. Yeah.
What about image? Does the image prompting?
Currently, image no, it doesn't support a multimodal rack pipeline. No, I don't
Oh,
think so.
can we upload any custom database itself, like structured data with the tables?
Uh, Custom database in the sense any SQL structured database, that kind of thing you are
Yes,
asking.
yes, correct.
You could run a data ingestion pipeline. It's like yeah, you cannot directly connect a SQL database to a knowledge base, um, but you could extract those in and then ingest into S3, and then from S3 only you can connect it.
Yes, really. Okay. Suppose if we have any MongoDB database, so can this be connected through any data pipeline, or it will be converted to S3 and connect? Uh,
Yeah, through S3 only. So far I have shown you, right, when you build a knowledge base, it only asks you the S3 source. There is no any other way to connect to your data source. So whatever your data source might be, it should come to S3 and then only can be ingested into this, I think.
okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
There are some more questions on chat. If you can check.
Okay, 1 second. So okay, will there be a fee for testing the models in AWS Bedrock? Yes. So there will be a fee. We could quickly show you the pricing in the documentation page. So this is the Bedrock pricing. You can go and check here. There are like multiples. Whatever I used is on demand. But this provision throughput is like when you scale up your applications and then you want a particular latencies and then concurrent invocations. Then you need this. This is very quite expensive, right? And but for now demo, I just use this. And they just have pricing per 1,000 tokens for different models. For example, this is like 12 cents, yeah, like that. So Amazon is very cheap. So yeah, they have different pricings based on like how much tokens you consume, you will be charged accordingly. And there is no any free tier, I suppose. You will be charged through to your credit card immediately. Yeah. I think the main reason I understood from my community, AWS community, which I am part of it, we had the same question because we have sufficient AWS credits, which we use to explore different AWS services. When this Amazon Bedrock launched, we were not able to use those credits. And when we put this query to some of the senior community managers, they responded that we cannot use AWS credits because many of these models are consumed through marketplace, and AWS actually pay from their pocket to them and in actual dollars. So that's the reason they are not allowing credits. Yeah.
So AWS credits is not real dollars. Is that right?
AWS credits is not a real dollar. Yes. So basically, it is given to you uh, as a free credits so that you can use that to explore AWS services. Sometimes startups gets a lot of credits, like 50,000, 1 lakh AWS credits. So for some community members like us, we'll get like 100 credits, 200 credits.
That's too low, no? Yeah, that's quite low. In Cellsat, we did get 100,000 credits, by the way, as part of the AWS startup program through NVIDIA Inception. But it goes very fast. So, and trying to do the things we are doing, it goes very fast. I
Yes.
think the Bedrock cost for one of our clients is quite nominal, but the VV8 embedding cost is the killer. So in AWS, you have to use VV8 from marketplace. That's killing. That's a killer cost. But Bedrock itself, Anthropic agent in Bedrock is nominal cost we found.
Okay.
Vivek, for the ImagineView also you're using VB8, right? So you're saying that for the AWS marketplace only you're using the VB8 or you're hosting VB8 separately?
We are using VV8 rendering from AWS marketplace. It's costing us, even with limited ImagineView and Cellbot work, it's costing us $500 per month. But for one of our clients, we are using Bedrock, Anthropic agent in AWS Bedrock. That is costing nominally. In that client, we have bypassed, embedding. We are not using VV8 or any embedding, so their costs are nominal. But our costs are high because we are using VV8 embedding.
But
But
here,
Bedrock itself is not very expensive. The VV8 embedding is expensive, or any embedding is expensive actually
but
for marketplace.
the Bedrock, the pipeline which Bismillah showed also has an embedding inbuilt, right? So anyhow, you have to have the vector store, right?
No, in our client situation, we have been able to bypass embedding because it's a well-defined limited data set. So we are no longer using, we are using Anthropic agent without embedding.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, my team has done that. I don't know. I also used to think embeddings are mandatory, but they are able to pass RAG context from client data without embedding, it seems.
Possibly they're using some local vector store.
I don't know what my team is doing in Rijit and all, but we have been able to bypass embedding because suddenly the client cost dropped drastically from February to March. Because in February we were using VV8 embedding for the customer. In March we stopped using it, so the AWS total cost dropped quite a lot. In ImagineView or self-shut product, I am continuing to pay $500 plus every month just for VV8. Actually, it's not just the VV8; it's the VV8 marketplace. But because you have to assign a R1, a large instance. Because the problem with VV8 embedding is it requires a RI large instance minimum. If you use any embedding, OpenSearch or anything, or in this, so it requires a R3I large instance, and that EC2 instance is what costs a lot. In addition to the VV8 license from marketplace. So our EC2 cost is the highest in ImagineView, and primarily because VV8 requires a powerful EC2 instance. So yes, so we are looking at mitigation strategy, but for our customer, fortunately, we were able to bypass the concept of embedding. So I don't know exactly how my team did it. I was also surprised to hear that.
But the embedding part of it is like if you are able to get the search out and then give the context, you're probably okay with it, right? You don't need the final embedding is from the vector
Maybe the
database.
team is doing semantic search directly on
Yeah.
textual data, and they are not representing it in numerical format of embedding.
Yeah.
Maybe
That's
that is
what
the way they are doing it. Not sure, because the data set there is limited, well-defined data set, right?
Yeah,
So
Yeah, that is what Vic, like when you say semantic search, it has to be embedding based.
they are doing RAG, Bismillah. Indrajit is doing RAG without embedding. I don't know. Maybe is
Yeah,
he's-
I don't understand how we can do RAG without embedding.
yeah, even I thought so, but they are doing, and it's working fine, it seems. Maybe they have an indirect way of doing embedding, as you were saying. Some other, I have to check with the team. Because if I can get rid of this $500 cost, that will help me a lot. That's a killer cost, right, for me.
Yeah, it's a very small data set. You don't have a very sophisticated setup like VB8. You could just do it with a local index like FIS. You just have 1, 2, 3 PDFs. You just index them and store them as a local index.
So it's possible in our VB8, it is adding the data we keep adding, right? We add small PDFs, fine. But it keeps building on, so maybe it's keeping all the previous indexes and costing that. So we have to optimize that. Bismillah, we'll need your help in our AWS architecture. So anyway, I'll let you continue with the session.
Maybe it's possible by using the good old like TF-IDF type of way to find the right place in the document. Provenance through TF-IDF. Sorry if my voice is breaking. So
I got one link I shared on the chat. Maybe I also saw for the first time. I just searched on the Google for the vector like embedding free. I got this link. It makes some sense what Vivek is also saying. I think there is a way, because the data he also mentioned that this one is like table of content is required for that in the document. So I think the same thing Vivek is also trying to say. This URL which I shared, right? It has mentioned that embedding free.
Possibly, yeah.
Okay. Okay, let me continue. I think there are some couple of more questions. I quickly take 2-3 minutes. Creating knowledge base means simply training LLM model. Is my understanding correct? No, there is no any training or fine tuning. Knowledge base is basically RAG, right? Retrieval augmented generation, and knowledge base is just an no code way of building and RAG workflow. Pre-trained LLM KB means embedding your custom literature for LLM to use for context. Okay, we can set that here. What about data privacy? Yeah, so data privacy is completely addressed within Amazon Bedrock. All your data are secured and private, and none of the data leaves your AWS VPCs. So it's fully secured. Let's explore the limitation of Bedrock platform pricing. Limitation of Bedrock is some. Bedrock is more like a managed generative AI services in a more like a serverless fashion, right? At certain point, it might be needed that you need to do a lot of customization. You need to deep dive into finer details and fine tune them. So at that moment, I think Bedrock might face certain limitations. Then you need to go to a very low level implementations. Then you need to get into SageMaker. So Bedrock is a more like a serverless way of using generative AI. It is pay per query, yes. How to debug customized GPT model after applying. Okay, any metrics to evaluate? Yes, I think the Bedrock team is building up model evaluation, as you can see here, which is in preview stage. Okay, maybe we can have a separate session on this. So you could evaluate your generative AI applications either through automatic benchmarks or your own human in the loop kind of evaluations. But I have not yet still explored this, and it is also in a quite early stage. This is slowly coming up. Does it use basic RAG techniques? Yes, it uses, or also covers the advanced ones like no. So it is just a very basic RAG, right? So it doesn't have any advanced RAG features that you might use it otherwise in your other applications. So if, let's say, Llama Index has many advanced RAG features, those kind of things, it is not available in this. It's just a very basic RAG. What vector database is used? OpenSearch serverless. So OpenSearch is basically the Amazon's vector store, and it is also run as a serverless. So it is very cost effective. Can we plug any other vector database of the choice? Yes, but in knowledge base, I think there is only 4 choice. One is OpenSearch, another is Amazon Aurora, another is the Pinecone. Pinecone is a third-party vector store. Another one is a Redis. These are the 4 options available. Anthropic is costly compared to the recent pricing of Azure. Okay. Can we use knowledge graphs along with racks? Yeah, that I'm not sure. Comparing base models versus KB to custom GPT is to maintain context and answer relevant to our questions. Yes. So the base model will sometimes answer out of context, or it may not be able to answer at all, and it could also have hallucinations. These kind of things can be reduced using RAG workflow, which is basically the knowledge base. Okay. Yeah. Given we have answered all the questions, let's jump into the next topic, the agents. Okay. So what are agents? So agents is again another Bedrock service which enables generative AI applications to execute multi-step tasks. It could be multi-step task on your company enterprise data and also in different sources. So agents, what are the features of agents? Agents uses the power of LLM to prompt and respond using natural language, and it dynamically understand the user's query, and it uses the principle of react, which is reasoning and acting. It reasons out what are the appropriate actions to be taken to suitably answer the user's query, and it executes those steps one by one. And you can also see the traces, what are the steps this agent has taken in order to appropriately respond back to the user's query. So what it does is it takes the user's query, breaks down into logical steps, and then it orchestrates all the steps one after another. Okay. And it completes those tasks dynamically, and it responds back to the user's query. And it's a very secure and private, and you don't have to worry about data leaking or data privacy. So it basically uses chain of thought prompting, and you could also trace this chain of thoughts, and you could see what agent has done, what kind of steps it has taken, and what kind of prompt the agent has used in order to find the suitable answers for the user's query. Okay, we'll see that in action now. Now, how that works. So agent consists of the following components, right? When you build an agent within Amazon Bedrock, it requires a foundation model. Okay, because without foundation model, we cannot do. And then it has instructions. Okay, so we'll see that instructions. So the instructions are, there are some default instructions, but these instructions could also be customized to your use case. Okay, and then the prompt templates. So there are 3 main steps that the agent will take, and for these 3 main steps, you have a prompt template. and the output of one will be an input of the next step. And the most interesting thing is the action group, which means, for example, let's say the agent wants to go and call another API, right? It could go and call a weather API or a map API to find the routes or to find the weather conditions of the city, or it could go and look into a particular database and fetch the informations from that. Those kind of things is called action groups. Now you could have pre-configured actions, okay, through which is defined through an YAML file, which follows the open API structures. And then every API has a path, and all these APIs are implemented into a Lambda functions. And during runtime executions, the agent first understands the user query, and it dynamically decides which API call it needs to make, and makes that API call, gets the response, and then analyze those response, and then response back to the users to give you the right answer. Okay. And what you could also do is you would also limit your agent's context within a certain data source, right? By applying a RAG workflow, which is nothing but a knowledge base. But these two are optionals. Without even these two, you could use a very simple basic agent, which could actually do this orchestration of tasks to answer your user queries. So this is basically how an agent works under the hood. Now, during runtime, what happens? So during runtime, the agent has three main steps to execute. The first is the pre-processing steps. Once the user puts in query, it handles the user's query, analyzes the user's query, and it validates the user query, right? So in this, it could be that the agent validates whether the user query is any harmful input, which could actually have some negative consequences. You could design your pre-processing step. There are already default pre-processing, but you could also customize this pre-processing. Okay, we'll get into this and understand it in better. Next comes the actual execution of the task, right? Once it validates the input, now the agent starts executing. It decides what are the steps I need to take in order to get the answers for these queries. And then it executes the steps one by one. For example, it could be querying a database. It could be executing an API calls and different things that it could do. And finally, once it has the response, this post-processing is an optional. By default, it is off. But let's say if you want to format the response in a certain way, you could do a post-processing parsing of the final response and then give it back to the user. Okay, so this is the flow. The user gives the input, and what it does is first is the pre-processing prompt. Okay, and it also stores the prompts in prompt stores, and also the session history in session stores, which means when you're asking follow-up questions, it already know the context, it already know the conversation history. Then you could the agent could actually augment those conversation history and then response back to you. First, it validates the input. Once it is validated, it goes into a loop until the model or the agent finds the appropriate answer. It keeps on executing this. Or let's say if it is not able to find an answer, it will get back to the user asking up a following question. Hey, I'm not able to find the answer. Can you give me more details? Those kind of things is also possible. Next, it does the orchestration prompt. Then it basically pass the final response. In case if you have given an action group, it could also go and execute those actions, which are basically nothing but a Lambda functions. And then finally, it could also optionally look into your knowledge base, right? in order to make sure that the agent is answering within the context that you are expecting it to. Okay, I know there is a lot of details. Once we are actually seeing the demo, you will understand more better, because this session is more of an practical session than a more theoretical one. Okay, so now first I'm going to create a very basic agent. Okay, there is very simple, but you will understand a little more what agent is trying to do. Let's say answer. This is also done without writing any code. Okay, and you could just give a simple description. Um, So this is something, select whether the agent can prompt additional information from the user when it does not have enough information to respond to an utterance. Okay, so this is what whether you allow the agent to ask follow-up questions when the agent is not able to find the appropriate answer for your questions, right? If you say yes, it will ask follow-up questions. If you say no, then it will just stop there and it will say that I'm not able to answer your question. Then you just create an IAM role. And next step would be this is where I was telling, right, the instructions. So this is basically you instruct the agent what kind of agent it is, what is its roles and responsibilities, and what it should show, how it should behave to a user prompt. So now you could select from Anthropic the 2.1. Now let's say I'll give a very simple instruction. So what I'm saying is I just already created one using some example from internet. So this says that you are an helpful chat assistant which answers based on the context provided below. Please only answer based on the provided context. If the answer is not in the context, please politely say that you cannot answer the question and just say the context. And then I just gave him a simple context from Wikipedia page. Okay, this is a very simple, very naive example, but it will help us to understand how agent works. Next is an action group, which is basically is optional. Okay, we'll skip this, but we'll come back to this later. Next is knowledge base. That is also optional. If you want to use, you can use a knowledge base. That's it. So once you have all defined whatever is required, you can create an agent. Okay, so now this is a very simple agent that I created. Now let's run this. So since I gave a little simple paragraph about Taj Mahal, so you can ask where is Taj Mahal, and it is going to answer you. The most interesting is to see the trace, what kind of steps that the agent has taken. This we know that this is a very simple basic example. Now this is where you will understand the power of agents. As I said, there are three main steps for an agent. First is the pre-processing step, next is orchestration, and then the post-processing, which is by default it is off. So first we need to validate whether the user query is appropriate. So what it will do is the agent will create this input payload. So it says some model parameters like temperature, top K, top P. This could be customized. Then it says this is the prompt, right? You are a classifying agent that filters users input into categories. Your job is to sort these inputs and then say there are like A, B, C, D, E categories. So there are 5 categories, and this agent, this LLM model, has to categorize this input query into one of these categories. Now, if the category is, let's say, harmful or very malicious content, then it could categorize into either category A or B. So category A, and let me look into a list of functions. The agent is allowed to call any other functions. Where is category A? Yeah. So category A is malicious or harmful events. Okay. Then category B is inputs, whether the user is trying to get information about a function, which is also not allowed. And category D or E is allowed. So what it will do is it will categorize the input query, and it will respond back with what category the input response falls into. And it also gives you the rationale why it takes that decision. It says that whereas Taj Mahal seems to be a simple question asking for the location of a Taj Mahal, it does not appear to be harmful or malicious. It is not trying to manipulate my behavior or get information about my capabilities. As I have access to the ask user function, I could potentially ask the follow-up question to try provide. Therefore, this input falls into category D. That's it. Once it has been validated, then it goes into the orchestration step. Then it takes the instructions from the model, which we have put, right? You see, we said that you are an helpful chat assistant and answer the user queries based on the context given below. The context is given in the angular bracket. So it takes that and creates its own prompt. Okay. And then it gives back the final response. Okay. And then the rationale also it can give you. So the final response is that Taj Mahal is located in Agra. It is on the right bank of River Yamuna. That is basically the final response, and then the agent finished its execution of task. In this particular thing, there is no any post processing because by default it is off, and that's how we got this answer. Okay.
So one question, Bismillah. My team told me in Bedrock, the only ready-made agent is from Anthropic agent. But are you saying we can build agent with any LLM in Bedrock?
No, only Anthropic.
So you are showing Anthropic agent only, right? So that is correct information. Okay.
Yeah. Correct.
Okay, got it. Because Anthropic has an investment from Amazon. So Amazon is pushing Anthropic. They have not provided a Llama agent, it seems.
Yes. See, you could build an agent through, let's say, API calls. So now in console, I showed you that it is not possible to create an agent outside of Amazon Anthropic, right? Because in this, you couldn't select any other model other than Anthropic.
Right.
Okay.
We are using Anthropic Claude 2 agent. Claude 3 agent was not working for some reason. We are using Claude 2 agent.
Yeah. But I'm not sure you could also try the programmatic way of building an agent. That
I mean, we can't call GPT API. I mean, that's prohibited due to privacy reasons. So we had to use a local LLM, and Llama was the other choice, but there is no agent available for that.
okay, cool. Okay. So that is about agent. So now let's. So this is the basic way of agent working. Now, let's say once you have built an agent, you know how it works. It is also possible that you could go and customize that. So within the agent, there is something called working draft, right? This is what the working draft of one particular agent. Now you could go and modify this, meaning you could add an action group if you want, you can add a knowledge base if you want. But what we see now as a next step is to look into this advanced prompts, right? So These are the three main steps that an agent takes: the pre-processing, orchestration, and the post-processing. Now you could have the option of customizing this. So that's where we call it as advanced uses. And advanced prompts. And these advanced prompts are meant for advanced users who understand what is going on and who knows how to tweak it in order to customize the response. Right? What you could do is you can override the pre-processing template defaults. So it will ask you that these are for advanced users, and you should make changes only if you understand what you're doing. Okay. Now this is the prompt, and you can see that there are 5 categories which the agent has to validate that. And what we could also do is you could use a lambda function as a parsing step. So how do we do that? We just see how to do that, so that you know that these options are available, so that you could customize these parser lambda function. So you could just make it enable. And the first step to use a custom parser lambda function is to build an lambda function. So for that, you go and go to lambda, and then create a lambda function. Let's say call it as demo Bedrock, and runtime could be Python, and create a lambda function. And I already have a lambda function with me. And then I copy paste this function here. Okay. And quickly what it does is, it is one lambda function, depending on whether it is in pre-processing step, or it is an orchestration step, or it is a post-processing step. It will execute that particular function. Okay. So the agent will call this lambda function at every step. If it is a pre-processing step, then it runs this function. If it is an orchestration step, then it runs this function. If it is a post-processing, then it runs. Let's say it's a pre-processing step, right? Then what it does is, this is post-processing. If it is a pre-processing, what it does is it checks whether it is a valid input or not. So for that, it calls this function, and if it is falling into category D or E, then it returns true, which means the input is valid. If not, it will be false. And if it is a false, it will not go into the next step at all. Okay. Now I'm deploying this function. Now you need to do a configuration. So now I created the lambda function. Now what I need to do is I need to select that particular lambda function, right? Demo Bedrock parser. Let's select that. Okay. And this lambda is used across all the steps for orchestration and for also post-processing. Okay. Now what I'm going to also do is I'm going to override my post-processing. And in this, I'm going to make a little tweak that once you have the latest response, I should say that I'm saying that you should translate that into Hindi. Okay. It's just okay. We have changed that. And then we should also activate, because by default it is off. Okay. So now we did the processing. I think there is a small Let's see how it goes, whether we are facing some error or not. So I'm just showing you, like, how you can customize your agent. So now you can save and exit. Now, once you have modified your agent working draft, you need to prepare that agent. Now, you should also do some settings or configurations in your Lambda, because the Lambda doesn't have, or the agent doesn't have the permissions to invoke your Lambda. So for that, first we'll do that the timeout is not sufficient, because in 3 seconds is not sufficient. So we'll make it 3 minutes instead. So first that configuration we did. Second is the permissions. The permissions, we need to allow resource-based permissions, which means I want to allow my Bedrock service to invoke my Lambda. Okay. In this, Bedrock is not listed, so you have to select other. And in statement ID, you could just say demo Bedrock. And principal would be similar to sns.amazon.aws.com. It would be bedrock.amazon.aws.com. Okay, that's a service. But what is the source ARN? We need to go to our agent. And this is our agent ARN. So we are allowing this agent to invoke our Lambda. And what action we are allowing to invoke it. So now it should be fine. Okay. Now we have given the permission. So you could check the policy. What we are saying is we are allowing the Bedrock with this agent, this agent, allowing this particular Lambda to invoke them. Okay. Now let's go and try our agent. Now in this case, we did custom Lambda parser. We also added a tweak in the output parser that it has to translate the final response to Hindi. So now we'll ask the same question, where is Taj Mahal? And hopefully, if there is no error, then it should execute. Okay, there you go. So earlier, our agent was simply taking the question, and then it just responded to you in English, right? Because that the post processing was by default off. Now in this agent, I customized that. I also added a custom Lambda parser. Now also in the post processing, I added a additional instruction that the final response has to be converted into Hindi. I really cannot read and speak Hindi, so I assume that this is correct. Okay.
ताजमहल आगरा उत्तर प्रदेश भारत में मिला है, नहीं स्थित है, यमुना नदी के दाहिने किनारे पर. ओके, fair enough.
Okay, yeah. So we could also go and see the trace. Okay. And so first what it does is it's the same thing. Like it was classifying whether the input is valid. So it says that it is a proper category T. So it could go to the next step. Yeah. Only thing in the final thing, it was able to convert that into Hindi. See. So since we told the final response, please output transport. Somewhere we should have told Hindi. Yeah, we told here, right? Here is the last response, and you should translate that into Hindi. So if the agent was able to understand that, and then it translated that into Hindi. This is what an agent is capable of doing it. And if you want to know whether the agent actually talked to the Lambda function, you could go and see in the logs. So this is the Lambda we just built, right? Yeah. So you could see the agent calling this Lambda function, and the log has been ingested. So it's basically the communication is happening. So which means that within this Lambda function, you could customize however you want. Okay. So you could tweak and customize your agent's behavior however you want. Yeah. That's basically the next demo of agent. I have one more demo, but I don't know if we have time for it. But before that, I just check whether we have questions on these agents.
Can we
Any
combine
questions,
this?
folks? Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Can we combine this knowledge base and agent or any kind of scenario where we need to do it?
Yes. So you could combine this agent with knowledge base as well. Yes, you could do it. So in this case, I have skipped the knowledge base and the action group. So assume that you have a knowledge base, right? And then you could make it more sophisticated, more advanced, and then the agent could actually pull uh, um, a query back into your knowledge base, get the appropriate context, and then answer your queries within the context only.
So ideally,
I'm
let's say I have
Mhm.
to develop some agents for specific, scenario. So I first use knowledge base to train and make it ready. I mean, initially with all my documents or whatever knowledge which I want to make it ready to that particular, domain. And then I can use agent for specific tasks and use this knowledge base also to answer. Like, right?
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I'm still not sure. Yeah, I'm sorry. So the knowledge base you don't have to train, but I'm not sure what the training that you are referring to.
And I mean, embedding, like say knowledge, let's say I have like different, like particular organization specific data is there, private data is there.
Yeah.
And that I need to fit, let's say, a corporate policy for my organization.
Correct.
And then I'll train, I mean, I have to put those data into the knowledge base first, and then have to create, like, say, okay, my current office that team members can use that agent to answer the specific query, like leave policy or anything, XYZ. So,
Exactly.
yeah, right. So then I can prepare this agent and use the knowledge base, right? Like, why it's like
Exactly.
this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah, for example, let's say you can create an insurance agent. Let's say you are an insurance company. Okay.
Yes.
And all your customers' insurance document could be ingested into this knowledge base. Okay, and it has the information about what is the premium, what is the customer's phone contact details, like email, phone number, and it could also be the what is the renewal date of that particular policy of that customer. And then the agent could periodically run those queries. And then if there is an customer's insurance policy is going to get expired in, let's say, next month, the agent could automatically send a reminder to those customers. You don't have to manually do it. Those sending reminders, right? Those list of actions could be defined in this action group.
I
That
see.
customer database could be know your knowledge base.
And one more question, like, sorry, if we, like, say, I have, like, say, thousands of users, right? I mean, my customers, like, the thousand of customers are there, and I have to uniquely, like, separate out those. Like, we have document in bunch, all database we have it of. We train, put as a knowledge base, and but I have to, like, specific customers should know their policy only and their data only, not for others. So how I can separate out? Any idea on that, or any suggestions?
So you mean to say that this Yeah, you could do that into your prompt only, right? In pre-processing of these things. If let's say if you're able to identify those customers during your login only, okay, then you could tell to your agent that, let's say I am logging in as Vivek, right? Then you should tell your agent that don't show only the Vivek's document. Do not show any other document. You could just put it into your prompt or put it into your action groups. You understand, right? So then it would filter those documents before answering it. So that you are ensuring that the agent is answering based on only Vivek's document and not on any other customer's document.
Okay, good. Thanks for answering.
Yeah. Okay.
So good stuff. I don't know if my team is using, I mean, they are using Anthropic agent, but I suppose they have set it up in a similar way. But I don't know the detailed architecture. Because if they are using Anthropic agent, Bismillah, most likely they would have done all of these steps, right?
Yeah, so I'm not sure whether they're using action groups and knowledge base. These are a little bit
No,
advanced. Okay.
I don't think they are using that one. They are bypassing the embedding, it seems. I mean, I don't know. I'll have to talk to the team. In fact, Indrajit was having some challenge, so I had asked him to reach out to you.
Okay.
In creating a Lambda, exposing the this LLM agent to the UI through a Lambda API. So there was some issue there.
Okay. All right. Any more questions? If there is one more demo, like where I can show like using action group. Let me walk you through that. This one is a very dumb example. Okay, it's not a very working example. So what is that? You could create an open API YAML file, and then you can create an action group. So if I open this weather agent, so what this weather agent will do is once a user asks what is the temperature of Bangalore, then it will go and call and make an API call to one weather API and then get the temperature and then give it back to you. Okay, just an example. So the users are like limitless. You could do any API calls, any kind of actions you can define within that lambda. So what I have defined here is an action group, which is an weather API. And what it does is it makes a call to this lambda function. Okay. And how this API is defined is these two things are required for you to define an action group. Okay. One is the schema and how the schema will look like. I'll just quickly show you that. Just one moment. Where is my... I think this one. Yeah. So I hope you can still see my screen. So this is the weather schema YAML file, which we need to upload through the S3 bucket. And it has the details of how your action groups are configured. So in this case, there is only one path. Okay. Now, and then it also has a description, a summary of what that particular API path is intended to do. So what the agent will do is once the user asks a query, and if you have, let's say, n number of API paths are there, right? Like get weather, get map, or get the renewal date, whatever it could be. right? So then it dynamically decides what is the appropriate API path it needs to call, and then it makes that API call get the response back, which will be in this format, and then gives back the response to the agent. Okay, and then those the business logic of this APIs, right, or there within this lambda. Now, if you open the lambda, this is where you define all your business logics, like how do you process all these API calls, like. So once the agent calls this lambda, which is basically using this event object, we know that what is that API path, okay? And if that API path is basically calling this particular API URL, and it takes the city name as an user input, so it knows what city that user is asking the temperature about. Take that city, call that API, weather API using that city, get the temperature and response back to the user. Okay. Similarly, how we configured the agent, you should also do that. So now I have added an action group. Before we didn't add any action group. Now we have a very simple naive weather API call. That business logic is defined in the Lambda function, and the configuration of this action group is defined in the YAML file. Okay. And now if you ask, what is the temperature of Bangalore? So it understands which city that you are asking the temperature. Then it takes that Bangalore as the input parameter to call this particular API, put that city into this, and gets the temperature and response back. Hopefully. Okay. So for example, sometimes it is not able to fetch it correctly. So you can go and check what is going wrong there.
You entered Bangalore spelling wrong.
Oh, okay.
No, but that it should do self-correction, right? LLMs are known to do
No,
language
this
correction.
API is hard-coded.
Oh, okay, got it.
It will only answer for Bangalore. I
Understood.
told you it's a very, very basic example. So now it says the temperature of Bangalore is 32. So in this first one, we can understand why we are not able to answer that. So let's analyze the input step. So first is the validation. So it finds that it is a valid input, and then it goes into the action group where it says the user asked for the temperature of Bangalore with the typo. I assume they meant Bangalore. You see, it is able to reasoning out. It's able to guess that he has made a mistake, and it reassumes that I'm actually asking for Bangalore and not for Bangalore, right? Since the city real name is Bangalore, I think it is more likely a typo, which the agent itself is reasoning out. And then it asked a follow-up question, hey, whether do you really mean Bangalore or is there any city called Bangalore? And I said, no, I meant only Bangalore. Then it returned temperature with the ticket. And this is what an agent is capable of doing. Yeah, that's all for today. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we can wrap.
Sorry, I have one question more. Let's say this, okay, I develop this agent. I'll prepare like knowledge base, I have done it. Agent have it of provided all action group and everything. Now I have actually deployed this service to use end customer, not to have this pre-processing and other things exposed, just the agent part. How I can deploy or deliver that to the end users actually.
Yeah,
Any,
that is you have to use through Amazon SDKs.
okay.
Yeah, so that I can cover in a later part. So basically, you can consume Amazon Bedrock in 3 ways. One is through this console,
Okay.
right, which is a no-code platform. Another is you could use through Amazon AWS SDKs. You could use a Python SDK, Java SDK, or any programming language of your preference.
Okay.
In that, you could run a Bedrock runtime, and then you could talk to this, or you can call this agent through programmatically.
Okay.
So you could just abstract everything from your user, and you could just build an let's say UI on top of this. Let's say a web application, and that web application will have a, let's say, a chat interface. It takes the user. In behind the backend, you make an API call to the agent through AWS SDK. So you don't have to expose all these details to your user.
Okay. And what is third way?
I'm sorry.
You said 3 ways, right? One is this, third is SDK. I mean, second is SDK, and third one?
CLI, Amazon CLI.
Amazon CLI. Okay. So second one is best to deliver to customer, right? End customer.
Yes, yeah. If you want to build an application, right, a web applications or mobile application, you basically have to use that AWS SDK.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So it
No,
will be
for our
something.
customer, we are doing the AWS Bedrock Cloud agent, but we are exposing that through a Lambda API, and so that the client's front-end architecture can call it through Lambda API using a JSON web service command. So I'm not sure if they are doing console-based or SDK-based, but clearly the client integration is through a Lambda API.
Yeah. So for example, this is what I was telling. So you could use programmatically, you could use Amazon Bedrock using AWS SDKs. Okay. For example, let's say if you want to invoke an agent, and you could either do JavaScript or Python. So Python would be is first you create an runtime client, and then invoke that agent. But only thing is you need to configure the IAM permissions and all those things. Okay. So later we'll do a more code-based implementation of agent. So today's, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's more like an introductory session, just to understand the capabilities of Bedrock. In later sessions, we'll do this more code-based advanced concepts. So,
Great. So there are some questions, I think, on chat.
okay, I'll go from bottom. One question is the agent internally calling some? Yes, yeah, the agent is definitely calling an LLM model, because I will show you that. Okay, so I was explaining, right? This is how the agent works. Okay, and you can see that, right? In every step, it calls a foundation model or LLM. In this case, we use Anthropic Claude as our LLM. Okay. What is the cost for our algorithms? The cost we discussed, it is there in Bedrock pricing page. You can. Yeah, Amazon Bedrock is not available in all regions, so we could just see what are the regions they are available, right? So even in US, it is available in only 2 regions. In Asia Pacific, it is not available in Mumbai, as someone has rightly pointed. It is available only in Singapore or Tokyo, in Europe, one region. So it is just the beginning. It's just like 1 year old. So it's still evolving. So this is the AWS answer or response to OpenAI's disruption in generative AI space. So AWS is also trying to catch up and build capabilities in this field space.
So Bismillah, AWS is not trying to create its own LLM, right? They want to provide developer tools using all other LLMs. So they are not trying to create an LLM, I believe.
Yeah, they have some LLM, but they are not up to the mark. They are not on par with OpenAI. Though their only choice was the Anthropic Claude.
Yeah, they've invested a huge money in Anthropic, so I guess they are treating that as their preferred LLM.
Yeah, they have their
Maybe-
own this one, like Titan. They call it Titan.
Maybe they'll end up acquiring Anthropic eventually, possibly.
Mm.
Both, Apple and Amazon have a gap in the LLM space, so Anthropic is an acquisition target for these firms. So is Mistral.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions, audience? There is one chat question which came, I think. You can check the chat.
Okay, so RAG can be used in real-time streams to get user queries and response immediately. What could be the performance challenges? Any suggestion to fine-tune to reduce the latency and throughput? Yeah, I have not worked on that level of scalability. There is depends on the LLM model you are using. I think the latest Claude 3 Haiku is a very fast model, I think. So if you have a latency,
Opus is the highest one, but they
okay,
don't have Opus yet, right?
yeah. Within Anthropic, within this Bedrock, I think the recently added this one could be a faster one.
Mhm.
Which one you told? Opus.
Yeah, it's Anthropic Claude 3 Opus. Claude
Oh,
3
okay. It's
Opus, I
still not
think it.
integrated here, I think. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And there's one more question.
Haiku is light and fast. Sonnet is next level. Opus is final one. In Claude 3, there are 3 levels.
Okay.
Haiku, Sonnet, Opus.
In Databricks, it provides option to use AWS Bedrock. Do you have any idea how this works out? Okay. I do not have idea about Databricks.
I mean, that's interesting because Databricks had a very popular LLM called Dolly 2. I'm not sure where it stands today, but until few months back, we used to hear of Dolly 2 being one of the contenders in the LLM race from Databricks.
You mean DOLLY or DALLY?
Dolly, DOLLY, Dolly,
Okay.
not Delhi from OpenAI. So Dolly 2 was quite popular until few months back. In fact, Databricks had created a very nice instructional data set using their employee workforce, having employees participate in a RLHF kind of situation. But I haven't heard of Databricks Dolly 2 in recent times. Okay, audience, any other questions for Bismillah? So excellent session, Bismillah. Thank you for this presentation. So Bismillah, do you think this needs a course or a couple of webinars are good enough for this?
Yeah, courses. A live course is better. There are a lot of recorded courses. There is this deep learning has a mini short course,
Hmm.
but they are like good for beginners to get started with these concepts,
Mhm.
and even like other courses are there, right? Even in what is that company called? I forgot. Yeah, there are some courses out there, but they are like pre-recorded courses.
No, I
But
was talking about launching our own course like that. Like
yeah, but
we are
you
launching
were
a,
saying
yeah.
live course, right?
Yeah, we are launching a Gen AI course now in April. So
Then that will be really very useful. Next
yeah, no, I'm talking to you for launching it, but we'll talk offline on that.
okay.
So okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, audience, for joining. Yeah, Bismillah, go ahead.
Yeah. So there is like maybe more practical oriented course will be better.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
See, the problem, Bismillah, with AWS is it gives great developer tools, right? But everything is pretty expensive.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah, as an individual developer or startup, how do they get started, right? So it immediately starts adding up cost on your credit card. So while they are giving powerful dev tools and commoditizing this agent setup, all this, but the cost will be prohibitive for most developers or individuals, right? So it's only for large companies, it seems. So there is substantial potential of dev tools at a lower cost price point. So let's see. So far, AWS seems to be charging out for everything they give.
Okay.
And the credits they give run out very fast, right? So we have now used up close to $100,000 in credits as a startup. But now we are at our kind of wits end what to do now. So we had a special extension of our remaining credits by AWS because they had expired last month. But once in another few months our remaining credits will run out, then what do we do? So there is some challenge here in cost profile. Okay, thanks a lot, Bismillah. Excellent session. Thank you,
Okay.
audience.
Thank you, Kani. Yeah. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Talk to you next. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.